I was at the store. I literally just had the thought, I wonder what like a protein shake would taste with all these fruit into one. I would say like a week later, it was just like amassing hundreds of thousands of views per day. And then it got up to like 1 million. And then I was like, wait, how is this video going to be my most popular video?
Meet Hangtime, a former NFL player who went all in on YouTube. In this episode, he goes through the viral formula he used to grow to 2 million subscribers and generate over 500 million views.
What I'll try to do is make everything segmented, even if it's not a video that inherently has segments.
How he did things the wrong way to produce some of his most viral videos.
Guys, 2 days later, I uploaded a crappy thumbnail that I made in like 50 minutes. On the A/B test, it was the highest discrepancy I've seen yet on my channel. It was like 77% to 23%.
And what he does to collab with some of YouTube's biggest creators like Trahan.
I saw that he has Joyride and he loves Joyride, so I was like, I'm about to do this melting every candy into one. Maybe there's a chance.
What's up, Michael? Welcome to the 1 of 10 podcast.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
You also got Vexian. Why did you first start your YouTube channel?
I started in college when I went to Arizona State, and I actually started it originally to share videos about the gospel and the Bible. So I was doing like these videos in my apartment, just sharing what I believe in the Bible and the gospel. And then one day I took my GoPro with me. I had like a little, what was it? It was one of the older GoPro models, but I took it with me to one of my football practices. So for those who don't know, I played football, and that was the first video that actually got some views. And so I figured at that moment, even though I started it mainly just to share the gospel, I was like, maybe I can just share my life too and actually reach people maybe I would never have by just sitting down talking behind a desk about the Bible. So that was pretty much like the start of it in a very brief nutshell.
But what made you want to start sharing the gospel on YouTube?
Dude, okay. Well, honestly, Jesus saved my life when I was young, and I knew that, you know, football, I have a lot of passion, so football was fun. Obviously now my biggest like career passion is YouTube, but beyond that, God saving my life and knowing that I have an eternal purpose in Christ, that my sins were forgiven, that's truly the most important thing to me. So I felt like YouTube was a good outlet to do that. And now I'm so grateful that I have the platform that I do. And it's not the main, like, you know, some channels, that's their main thing is just theology and just like sermons. But I feel like it's so cool for me that I can do all types of videos and plant seeds of what I believe in the videos. And
then after I see this video, over 9,000 reps of leg extensions over 4 hours. Dude. How does that transition go?
So when I first started with YouTube, I mean, I was mainly watching like a lot of the challenge content that was like, oh, I want to try some of this. And I thought that was like legitimately going to get a lot of views. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, what's something crazy I can just do? And I did 9,000 reps. It's like I think that video was like 4 hours or something. My thought was it was just like, it was crazy enough to get views, but obviously, I don't think the average view duration was very good on that video. But yeah, I think early on, I was just like, I was really new to YouTube. And like I said, just for more context on my background, I played college football, and that was like really the main thing I was passionate about. But it was interesting because my passion for YouTube kept growing too, even though some of my teammates probably thought I was crazy and like, why is this guy posting so many YouTube videos? But the whole 9,000 reps, I did some other ones. Some of them are unlisted, but I did some other like challenge type videos. It was fun for me to try to dabble in that and see if I could make like a viral video. It was really fun for me.
Okay. At the time, just for fun, not really really just to share what you're doing type stuff.
Like I said, I think it's cool how God used it, because for me, the main thing that I really found appealing and still do about YouTube is that I can share not just entertainment, but what I truly believe. And so I feel like even though I was making different types of football content or challenges, I could share my own personal thoughts like in the videos too. And for me, that was really fulfilling. And I felt like I was made to do that. And also I feel like, I know you guys have talked to a lot of YouTubers, so I don't know if this is true for every YouTuber, but I feel like I am a little weird, just being honest. So like, I feel like for some reason, I didn't care about appearing weird on camera, or like, I don't know. I feel like with my kind of personality is a little bit goofy also. It was just like, it was a good outlet for me to keep building the channel and making these videos, even if people thought it was weird.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because every like podcast I've been on, at least with Richard here, all the YouTubers are like, yeah, I'm definitely weird. Like, they're all like the same thing. And it is true. Like, there seems to be like a common theme among all the guys that are massively successful, where it's just like being like authentically yourself with like no filter. Like, is incredibly good. Like a great example is maybe you've seen the podcast with Will. That's something he also said as well, which is like, yeah, I'm just like myself, and it's like if you like it, you love it, and if you don't have to watch. So I think there's a lot of value to be had, like just with that alone.
It's during that football era. I think you were a D1 college student.
Yeah.
Your goal was to become an NFL player at the time, right?
Like I said, for those who don't know, I played football. I played at Arizona State, and then I transferred to Oklahoma, and I was a punter. So if you still count that as a football player, it's not like a linebacker or something where you're taking hits. But I kicked the football. But yeah, my goal was to play in the NFL. That was like my career goal. In high school, though, I actually had 3 ACL surgeries, so I didn't even really play that much football. I took a gap year after high school where I lived with my brother, and that's where I learned how to punt. And for those watching who are just interested about YouTube, I'll tie it into YouTube really quick here. So I was playing football, but once I started my channel, deep down, I realized in hindsight, this is just God giving me the desires of my heart because I really loved YouTube. But deep down, I felt like I saw a lot of value in YouTube as a potential lifelong career, whereas football, you can make a lifelong career out of it. But to be honest, it's like people who you see in the NFL who have made generational wealth, they're really not that many. Most football players' career, they're in there for like a year or two and then they're done, if you even make it to the NFL. And so while my YouTube channel was growing, I just felt like I really saw the value in this, that I could do it long term. Even when my channel was small, I don't know why I had that belief in it. But yeah, so I ended up playing at Arizona State, then Oklahoma, and then I went to the NFL Combine. I got a good chance to play in the NFL. I ended up going undrafted, but I still signed with the Miami Dolphins. And this whole time, I'm still building like my YouTube channel. And it was actually a blessing because, as you guys know, it's not easy to become a YouTuber to the point where you're like able to make a living off it and like actually make it out of the kind of the, I guess, how would you put it? Just make it out of the mud, for lack of better words, of like becoming a YouTuber. But being a D1 football player, I feel like was such a blessing because I was able to kind of leverage that unique aspect of my life in my videos. And I'm sure you've saw some of my older videos, like Day in the Life of D1 Athlete. Yep. And really something that was pivotal during that time was I was making the football videos, but I felt like I was like injecting enough of my personality and even my personal life that even when football was done, because I feel like towards my senior year, I started to understand YouTube a lot better. My goal was to like make these football videos, but my hope was whenever I was done playing football, I interjected enough of my personality that the viewers would come with me. And I guess that's a tip for you watching, whatever your niche is, or even if some like particular thing you're doing is blowing up, always don't be afraid to interject enough of your personality, even if it feels like it's not good for retention, because at the end of the day, when you're done doing that thing or want to pivot to something else, it'll be really valuable to have people who just had an affinity for you, not just the topic you were doing. And that gives you kind of leverage to keep growing, to keep trying new things and actually building a genuine audience. So yeah, I played for the Dolphins, but then once I got cut, it was kind of an awkward time where I was still trying to pursue playing in the NFL. Like I had to work out with the Titans, with the Patriots, with the Chiefs. And then my last workout, for me, I'd rather be super passionate and obsess over one thing as opposed to trying to do both. And it was kind of an awkward time where I was still making YouTube videos, but I was also still trying to play in the NFL. And I really feel like once I prayed about it and was like, I felt good of like completely being done with trying to pursue football, it actually really freed me up to go even more all in on YouTube. And that's when I feel like my channel really started growing, which was crazy because for a while I was thinking, man, my channel is so much just about football. It's going to be tough to like just do whatever I want, because I didn't want to keep doing just like football related videos if I didn't play. So, but thankfully, by the grace of God, I was able to pivot from that.
And that's why we built oneof10.com, a tool that helps creators like you do the same, but 100 times easier. The tool helps you find viral video ideas already working in your niche. It then analyzes the millions of outliers in the database to help you generate your titles and thumbnails that match your channel. For example, it can create thumbnails in the style of Beluga or even create variations of thumbnails from just a title. And this works in any niche. No more wasting hours brainstorming concepts and designing on Canva. And one creator even used 1 of 10 to combine a viral idea with a high-performing thumbnail concept. The result? Her most viewed video ever with over 2 million views. And the best part? With code POD20 you'll get 20% off for life. So if you want to grow your channel faster, join thousands of YouTubers and head over to 1of10.com. Now back to the pod. I'm curious, at the time of how were you juggling, trying to be full-time NFL and juggling a full-time YouTuber?
Yeah, and even to rewind from that, it was tough. Like looking back at it, when I was uploading so much in college while being a D1 athlete and, you know, also school, I would sometimes be editing till like 3 a.m. like a video. And I do not recommend this, like if people are watching this. I've also changed my schedule, by the way. Now, since I'm married and have a kid, I really love waking up super early, doing all my stuff, and then being done. Like that's a good tip too. If you can like get all your work done and then set a hard stop for yourself, that way you can actually truly refresh. That's what I do now. But yeah, in college, I feel like I just loved YouTube so much that I'd be excited at the end of the day to go home and edit the videos. One big thing too, I wasn't voicing over at that time. And now in my videos, I voice over so much. So I feel like that was also a lot easier because I could kind of just be more, you know, I could wear headphones and just like be on my laptop editing. But like now voicing over takes a lot. That takes like the most energy because I still edit all my videos myself and everything. So
I like what you said earlier about bringing more your personality, even if you think it's going to hit retention. Because that's what I do here in the pod. I go more like, okay, value. But I don't really talk much or like I refrain myself. So it's a really good tip. I'm gonna remember that for myself.
Yeah, when I started doing the mixing videos, which is maybe a whole other topic because that kind of helped catapult my channel, I realized that I couldn't do that forever. And some people were saying, hey, stop doing so many in a row. You're gonna like pigeonhole yourself. And I think Vexine, I saw a screenshot you shared of that, of like doubling down on it.
Yep. I thought it was so smart. I love the fact that you doubled down because it was one of the things where, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I saw, I'm like, man, this is genius. Like, this is so smart because it's like the audience loves it. Like the first video did so unbelievably insane, and then they just kept coming back, and I kept watching because I'm like, what's gonna happen? And it was like I kind of already knew what was going to happen in the video, but I'm like, okay, well, I've got to see what happens with all the candy. I got to see what happens with all the chocolate. Well, now he's doing all the cereal, so what's that gonna look like? And you found such a great way to spin the same thing over and over again and keeping it interesting with your personality. And I talked to you about this over the call. It was just so engaging. And it was like, you know, outside of Ryan Trahan, I've never seen anyone so watchable. Like it was just refreshing. It was like very like, oh man, I can chill for about like 12 to 15 minutes. I can watch it. It's always gonna be a good time. It's always positive. It's always fun. So yeah, that was like, I loved it. But I don't think you were pigeonholing yourself at all. I think it was super smart.
No, I appreciate that. That's good to hear. To encourage anyone, if you feel like you don't want to necessarily be in a certain niche, but you feel like you have to make those videos just because that's what's going to get you views, like a good strategy would be make sure you are truly interjecting enough of your personality or just your style in general. So that way when you try something else, there's got to be, because my thought was before the mixing videos, my baseline for views were like pretty low, and I was still very inept of like what made a good video, and I still feel like I need to grow a lot more, obviously. Once I started realizing things that made a good video, just like the packaging, a reason to watch until the end, those are two super simple things, but once I started even realizing that, I knew that these mixing videos were bringing in such a new audience and my baseline was going up. So even if once I pivot to something else, if the baseline is a fraction of the mixing videos, well, it's still better than before when I was doing that. And I built some sort of an audience. So if you feel like you're in a niche, make sure you're interjecting enough of yourself. And when you pivot, hopefully, you know, God willing, enough of people just enjoyed watching you that they're going to watch something else. And on that note, you guys will find this interesting. Like my first few videos after the mixing ones, not first few, probably like first 5 to 10 were like all initially 10 out of 10s on like the ranking system. And then now if you check them, a lot of those have surpassed most of the mixing videos. And that's because the video itself was a good video, but it had to like find the audience. And that's another thing I truly believe. If you're making a good video and the packaging's good, it'll eventually hit the right audience. That's why I kind of don't love like the initial ranking because it can be pretty misleading for creators when they see that.
Yeah, that's like probably like great advice actually for most people. Is I have clients, I'm not going to name them, but if it's a 10 out of 10, I get a message with the first 30 minutes of video going live, and it's like, guys, calm down. We get 2 to 3 million views every video. Give it a little bit of time, and then maybe we'll consider redoing the packaging.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people put a lot of faith in that 1 out of 10 thing, and I don't think it's not like bad.
Well, to be fair, it is, and the 1 out of 10, I still love the name 1 out of 10, and obviously you got to be excited if you get a 1 out of 10.
No, but it's like they put a lot of faith on it, and it's like, oh, it's not 1 out of 10, it's a failure, and it's like, okay, like what does that even mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've seen 10 out of 10 videos get 10 million views like a year later, so it's one of those things where it is, it's a little bit complicated. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised because you had that like massive initial audience that wanted the mixing stuff. You pivot out of that and you do some other stuff. Like, for example, I tested 5-star hotels made for dogs. Like, I thought that was
that was a 10 out of 10.
that makes sense. And then now it's building up to 4 million views. I thought it was good. I thought all the dog stuff you did was actually quite well. Like, I flew on the first ever airline made for dogs. I thought that was good. And that one I think also started out fairly not great from what I remember, because I was like, oh, this like should be banging. And then yeah, I know. I mean, that makes sense. Like, don't put too much stock into the 10 out of 10s. You never know.
Yeah, I think the only caveat, I think it's a bit more accurate if you are like pretty niche. And like, for example, if you're exclusively a food channel and the video starts out at a 10 out of 10, well, if your goal is to continuously always be in the food niche, I think that's a bit more accurate sign of like this video wasn't super appealing to the niche that you're targeting. Whereas me, and this might be a topic that I can pick your guys' brain on. I feel like the viewer might appreciate this too. If you're not necessarily in a niche, I feel like then you never know, like if it is a 10 out of 10 or like an 8 out of 10, if it's a good video, it'll eventually get views. I remember I did a video recently going all the way to Japan. I spent a bunch of money, and in hindsight, and we could talk about this too, but I don't think that video was good in terms from like a optimization standpoint, but I thought the video itself was good. And now it like eventually rose up and is doing well. But that was like a hard 10 of 10 for like the first day. And after doing all that, but yeah, so I guess that's kind of my point. If you're not in a niche, it's a bit less accurate. But if you're really in a niche, then I feel like it's a little bit more concerning if it's like a 10 out of 10 right away.
Talking about your different niches over time, right? During your football days, so you grew from 0 to like 200K subs before you switched to the mixing stuff. How was the growth during the football days? Like what were you doing to optimize? What was getting views? I'm curious.
With the football days, you'd be surprised, even in America where football is like the biggest sport, surprisingly, like the TAM, the total addressable market, isn't as big as you would think on YouTube. And maybe that's also just a symptom of no one making super optimized football content. That could also be true. But I noticed the biggest growth on my channel early on, and it was like, God allowed me to think of the idea to do this. But the biggest growth videos were when I titled and packaged it more generally appealing, like day in life D1 football player. And I didn't necessarily put two and two together why that was doing better, but I kind of did because I kept doing that format a lot. But then like contrast that with like I moved out of my dorm. Well, that's way more personal and didn't keep getting views. But I didn't necessarily know exactly why. The more I titled the video in general just about football or athletics, the better it did. And then the more personal I made the title, the worse it did. But yeah, that was, like I said, kind of what I said previously. Being a football player was certainly like a unique aspect that helped me initially grow my channel. And I really feel like it was a huge blessing. So for you watching, whatever unique aspect of your life, you might want to leverage that, especially initially, to try to like build an initial audience, and then go from there. And
then that does well, and then you do the I think I mixed every fruit into one smoothie, and I feel I don't know if that's a life-changing one or something, but like what was the impact of that one?
Probably, I would say one of, if not definitely my most pivotal video. And just for backstory, it's funny being on this podcast because like I'd never talked about this with anybody, but I told my wife this and just some of my friends. But like that video is insane because it was at a point in my life where I was still maybe trying to play football. I was still getting workouts with NFL teams, but I was literally, this is the truth of how that video came to be. I was at the store, so I was at HEB. I was in the fruit aisle. I literally just had the thought, I wonder what like a protein shake would taste with all these fruit into one, or a smoothie rather. And I felt like I felt confident that I could still do it because I somewhat was able to tie in like a smoothie or like a protein shake with football. So that's what gave me like in my mind, like, oh, I should do this. But I didn't even go home first to like prepare or script it out more. I was at the store when I had the thought, and then I ended up getting all the fruit. And I filmed the video as soon as I got home with my wife. Like the whole thing took only a few hours. Another interesting thing is I was trying to make like a super fancy thumbnail for that. Like I was experimenting with like a million different fruit on the screen, yada yada yada. So I think I uploaded it with that thumbnail, like a really crappy thumbnail with like a million different fruit, me holding the smoothie. And then I was like, as I was editing it and looking at it again, I thought it was interesting, more of a profile of like me like this, like drinking the smoothie. So I literally just took a screenshot of that. I barely edited it, and I uploaded that instead. It had like 40,000 views, I believe, after like a day or two.
And do you want to chime in? This is one of my favorite thumbnails of like that entire year. I have like an ongoing like shout with myself where like if I find any like exceptionally good thumbnails, I usually like put it down there, and this is one of them. It's so interesting. Like it just makes sense. Like ties into the title perfectly. It's mid action, so like the viewer's like, okay, I've got to see it. It's like mid action, and it's funny enough. I'm using this exact thumbnail, and more specifically the I mix every sports drink thumbnail for a video for a client. In terms of like how you have the action where it's like looking up, mouth open with like a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how that does for that specific client, but it is heavily inspired by these two videos. Like I think they're just so good.
But yeah, the first 24 hours, it had 24,000 views. So it must have been 40,000 views after like like by day 2 or 3, it had 40,000. But what I was saying was eventually what happened, because it was like okay, because I was at that point I was doing vlogs, and then I would say like a week later, all of a sudden it was just like amassing hundreds of thousands of views per day, and then it got up to like 1 million, and then I was like, wait, how is this video going to be my most popular video? And for me, a light bulb, that was really an inflection point in my YouTube career, because a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized for a video to be successful, and for you watching, if you're a small YouTuber or a big YouTuber, I think this is still true. For a video to be successful, it has to be a good idea, good packaging. It can't be personal necessarily about you. You can interject your personality, but it has to be about a topic. And this is very like now, this is very like elementary things, but perhaps you don't realize this if you're watching. It has to be about a topic, good packaging, a reason to watch to the end, and ideally getting like, or stair stepping, getting better and better. And one thing I think was so amazing, and it's crazy because I wasn't intentionally doing this, but with all those mixing videos, inherently there was like a very compelling reason to watch until the end, and there was a very compelling packaging element that came with that. And then also, I didn't even realize this, but now I really believe this: the more clear and simple a thumbnail can be, the better. And like with all those, actually, funny enough, because my Photoshop skills are terrible, I actually kind of defaulted to just something simple of me like holding it or about to eat the item, whatever it was. And ironically, that was probably like the best thumbnail option I could have done, because a lot of things would have been too messy and confusing. So really, it was a perfect storm. And then I feel like maybe the second most important video was then when I did like the chocolate, mixing all the chocolate bars into one, because that was the first video that I literally said nothing about football in that one. Because with like the fruit one, I kind of mentioned like I played football, I need a smoothie to be strong, et cetera, et cetera. And that one had nothing to do with any of that. And then when I first posted it, it was like a 3 of 10, and then eventually did really well.
I'm curious, for the thumbnail, how exactly did you think about doing that pose?
I was having trouble making a cool looking thumbnail with like a million different fruit everywhere. And it was just kind of messy. And then I was just scrubbing through my timeline of what would be an interesting screenshot, and that just stuck out to me when I took like a sip from the side.
And then so you see that popping off, right? Do you immediately think, all right, I'm stopping football content and going all in on this mixing stuff? Like what's going through that moment? Because it's pretty important.
The one where I felt like I stopped football completely and I have the analytics up was like I just said, the chocolate one, because in the first 24 hours, that got 215,000 views, which for me at the time was the most, like for me at the time, that was like the most viral thing I posted. And that's when I realized I didn't have to make content about football. And I also realized, I know myself, that if I like really am passionate about something and find it really fun and intriguing, And also, like we talked about earlier, from a more spiritual perspective, very fulfilling because I get to talk, I get to say whatever I want in these videos and hopefully influence people for the gospel. That's when I was like, okay, I'm done with football. I'm gonna go all in on YouTube.
Oh, that was smart. You were quick on your feet because a lot of people will get a mega banger and then they'll just do other different stuff and just not care about it after a couple months.
Yeah, I really feel like if you post something that goes way viral for you, like relative to your amount of views of baseline, and you're able to make a bunch of follow-up videos, this is kind of what Bexy and you were saying earlier too. Don't be afraid to like do a lot of those in a row, even if people are saying, "Oh, that's all you do," you know, because you're also going to get comments of like, "Okay, you're milking this, it's over." But you got to realize making it on YouTube is so hard if you think about it. It is like analogous to making it as a professional athlete if you're trying to be like the top 1% of YouTubers. So why wouldn't you, if you just caught lightning in a bottle, why wouldn't you keep striking while the iron's hot? And then, like I said, if you want to do something else eventually, make sure you're interjecting enough of personality or like interesting things about your life so that when you do pivot, even if you're not getting all of that viewership, you're getting some of it and it was better than you were at before and you can keep doing other things. But I will say the pivot is hard, and that's why I was confident, but I was super thankful to God that it worked once I stopped doing the mixing videos, because that was like even more assurance, like, okay, this is such a blessing. I feel like now I felt like after the mixing videos and then the other ones started doing good, I felt more of like a solidified, I could do this for a living as like a real YouTuber. So that was a huge blessing that enough people came with me for the other videos.
Well, at that moment, let's say we go back. So you're doing mixing for a few months or even a year, I think, of it.
I think like almost a year, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say milking it again and again. What are you thinking? Like, do you want to get out of it? Are you thinking of creating a totally new format? What's going on? Because you're killing it in views.
And when you posted that on Twitter, I saw someone else comment like, but is he happy? And I responded to that, and I think you said like, I don't know, but he's getting views. And the thing is,
you know it so vividly.
Yeah, like I just happen to remember. Yeah, no, the thing is, bro, you got to think. There's people out here doing construction for a living. Like there are hard jobs out there that people are like a teacher, and they're finding fun and fulfillment in my job. But I'm not like I have to understand this is a huge privilege and blessing to be a YouTuber. So for me, if I'm like complaining, oh, this is my fourth mixing in the video in a row, it's so hard, like I want to do something else. Well, this isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like I can't just go record myself going on a 5-star resort and think like, oh, I should do that instead because it sounds more fun. And the irony was I was still having a lot of fun. But yes, obviously in an ideal world, I could have said, okay, I did 5 in a row. I want to go do something else now. But again, you got to live in reality. Like being a YouTuber is such a blessing. So it's always a balance of sacrificing. You have to sacrifice some element of like, remember, this is actually a real job, but it's still the most fun job in the world. So for me, I wasn't complaining. I was happy being able to mix cereal for a living and get to try all the different cereals and then try what it tastes like. Even though at that point, yeah, after like 5 or 6, I was like, I kind of want to try a hotel video or something. And I also knew I had to keep growing and like taking advantage of the audience I was getting. And then down the line, I could do other stuff. And by the grace of God, that's what I was able to do.
And the first video you go without mixing is with your dog, because that led to another format that's crushing.
Yes, and that's a tip too. Whatever you're like doing that's working, and then you're like preparing to pivot eventually, try to find one thing or person or idea that your audience can get really attached to that you can use as leverage for your upcoming pivot. And a more recent example of that is I made a short that went really viral for my channel about like water slides. And I've always liked water parks and stuff as a kid, but I felt like that's now becoming a little bit of like a thing on my channel of like and I know it's nothing revolutionary. People have done water parks and water slides forever. But once I saw that recent short do so well, that actually gave me more confirmation that I should go do a water park video. And that's my most recent one. But I digress. Yeah, the first video that wasn't about mixing was the pet drive-through one, which also I felt it combined a little bit of crossover because drive-through was still food. And then pet Cedric was also in some of the mixing videos. So it was two pretty strong elements of like things that And then obviously myself was in it. But it was two strong elements of like somewhat of a crossover. And that's another tip. Like if you're trying to pivot, don't do something completely random. Like try to have one or two relatable elements from all of your previous videos that the viewer can relate to.
I'm curious, at that point now, you're getting millions of views per video. What's your team like? What's your creative process? And before getting into that, let me tell you about how the 1 of 10 strategy team can help you grow your channel much faster and make more money. Our team has directly worked with over 100 YouTubers to grow their channels by optimizing their content, focusing on the right strategies. So for example, here's a video idea, title, and thumbnail that we crafted for Mike Shake that ended up getting 22 million views and being his most popular video of all time. Another example is the content strategy we built for Callaway, helping him go from 0 to 70,000 subscribers and grow a 6-figure business on top of that. And those are only just 2 of many creators the team has worked with in the past 6 years. So if you're ready to take your channel to the next level in the next 90 days with daily support, video reviews, winning ideas, titles, and thumbnails, and even 2 calls per month to answer all your questions, head over to oneoften.com/strategy to book a call.
I recently got a guy to help me with thumbnails, and he sometimes helps me like, well, I have a whole nother thought on this, though. I don't want to go on a tangent about thumbnails, but he sometimes helps me sharpen.
No, wait, no, we do. We want that. That's the pod
Dude,
for
okay,
it.
all right, yeah, this is interesting insight. Actually, this is the best example of it. So I did a video. It'll probably be my most popular video in like a year, but I built a secret man cave in my house. And I got the guy who makes the best types of thumbnails for those videos, and he made me a really sharp, aesthetic looking thumbnail. You guys will find this really interesting. But anyway, I upload this thumbnail from like, it's like a super aesthetically pleasing thumbnail. I'm like opening the door like this, and you see like Netflix, a pool table, like a workout rack. It looks sick. And the video was doing good, even though it was a different type of video for me. But guys, 2 days later, I uploaded a crappy thumbnail that I made in like 50 minutes of me with my head in like the dresser, and then my wife's legs, and there's an arrow that says wife. And the on the A/B test, it was the highest discrepancy I've seen yet on my channel. It was like 75%, or no, it was like 77% to 23% that the one that I made in like 30 minutes won. And I feel like that was a huge epiphany for me, because, and for you watching, if you're hiring people to make super aesthetic thumbnails, just ask yourself, is this thumbnail really matching like the essence of my video? And another good example of this is there's a new channel called Killdozer. I don't know if you've seen his thumbnails. Killdozer, Muffin Juice, his thumbnails are just like, do you know who that is? He's like a teenage kid that makes like funny meme type of videos, but like same thing. For a lot of strategists or like experts, they would say those thumbnails are terrible. Like that's not good for getting the click. But truly the thumbnail, it's deeper than you think, because the main thing is clarity and like a reason to click and tension. But more than anything, I realized it's more so how much can you actually match the perception of your video while maintaining elements of curiosity and tension. Because the irony is, if I had like a $10,000 Mr. Beast thumbnail, I don't even think it would do better for a lot of my videos than my thumbnails now, because my video itself would not match that vibe, which I feel like we understand, right? You don't want to clickbait, but like I feel like people don't understand that truly at a deeper level, and I'm still trying to learn it more. And another recent example is I did a video, I built like a float tank to escape reality. It's kind of a confusing concept, but that one, my thumbnail that I made also won, and I thought the one that my friend made was way more aesthetic and better. But that just shows that it matters more how much you're matching the video and the essence of your video. And I think Killdozer is like a perfect example of that. The guy who I referenced earlier.
It's interesting you say that, because I often see this actually when like I have clients scale and they hire out. A big thing is like it turns off the core audience. Like it might be a technical better thumbnail in terms of like how it's executed, but like you got to think your audience up until this point has been watching you mix things and like with your dog, and it's like, you know, if you go like super hard into the aesthetic, like built route, and I know the type of thumbnails you're talking about because we have done those type of thumbnails for clients. It's like, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Like that thumbnail might have worked for like someone like Will Tennyson, who does like, let's say, the more like higher end thumbnails. That's what his audience is used to. But your audience is used to like you just taking like screen grabs from your content and just being you. and like being
Yeah.
authentically you. So by having a better thumbnail, it's actually worse for your audience, which is counterintuitive, but that is how it works. So
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
surprised that you switching it did better.
significantly better, and that's when the video was like on the retention chart, or the view graph was like going straight up for 2 days, which was insane to see. But like, and I don't know if we would agree 100% on that, because I would also argue just objectively in general, if the thumbnail, even if it's outside of your current audience, let's say like that, let's say my thumbnail of me opening the door really aesthetically was shown to a new audience, and then so was the one that I made shown to a new audience, not even my main audience, I think it still would have done worse, because one thing I also learned on that video was that thumbnail of me opening up to a super sick looking room, maybe that would have been better a few years ago, but at this point in time, we're in 2025, where someone can just Google, or someone can look up on YouTube $1 billion house tour, or they saw Mr. Beast's video about the one versus $1 trillion house. So is my man cave even cool? Like, it wasn't even that cool relative to that. It was cool, but instead the thumbnail that I made played more into the psychology of tension, and like you couldn't even see the man cave. It was just my head in the cabinet. And so ironically, the man cave looked so like the man cave looked very unimpressive because it was nothing, that actually once the viewer saw it, they're like, oh, this guy actually ended up spending a lot of money and it looks pretty cool. So they're like, once they clicked on the video, they were actually impressed. Whereas the other thumbnail, they would have clicked and been like unimpressed, because they're like, where's like the 15-foot long pool table and the Netflix projector? And it made, you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I think it makes sense because one is like exceeding viewers' expectations.
Yes.
And the other is like meeting it. And it's like, it's better if you exceed it than meet it.
Yes, 100%. So that's where it's always a balance of like, how good can I make this thumbnail without exceeding the video itself? You want the video to exceed the thumbnail.
We talked a lot about packaging. I'm curious how you think about for the video itself, right? The storytelling, retention wise.
So yeah, going back to my team, the one guy who is more recently starting to help me with thumbnails, and then I found another guy, shout out Jace, who is starting to try to help me. He like recently helped me edit a short, but I feel like it's so hard. And this is for you watching as a viewer, or if you're a creator too, you got to be really careful before you just say, okay, I'm growing. Everyone says to outsource so I can grow faster, so I'm going to go hire an editor. You got to remember, like, what is your true value proposition? And for me, my true value proposition is editing the entire video myself, to the point where I'm like, really trying to make it as personal as possible. I voice over the entire thing. And if you just outsource that to an editor, you might lose the essence of the video and what the viewer was actually liking about it. So that's like a huge warning. So I feel like that's the hardest thing. And eventually I would love to have somebody who is like a friend of mine and who really understands my mindset and can help me with more of the aesthetic parts of the edit. But going back to your question, Richard, I would say the way I think about it is, most of my time I spend on the edit is like, I would say the first like minute of the video, just to set everything up. And then more recently, this has kind of been a more recent epiphany. And I actually learned some of this too watching your guys' podcasts. But it's really essential that the viewer knows where they are in the video. And so what I'll try to do is make everything segmented, even if it's not a video that inherently has segments. So like my most recent video, I tried 5 levels of water parks. That inherently had segments. But on videos where it's not like I tried 5 of, or I tried every, I will still try to segment the video, so that way the viewer doesn't feel like they're just watching one entire segment. And that's like the worst for retention. And I think that's why some people say like, oh, I uploaded such a good video, but it's not getting views. Well, for YouTube, you got to think like, it's not just about uploading a good video. Like a lot of movies wouldn't do good because it has to be so obviously segmented, so that way the viewer feels like they're progressing throughout the story. And so I'd say like that's the biggest recent epiphany. And at the very basic level, for any of you watching, you can instantly increase your retention just by having a really compelling like reason to watch until the end. And don't just say, and make sure to watch until the end. Like, you have to actually have at least something that like show that the viewer would genuinely be curious about to watch until the end. And I think that was a huge part of the mixing videos being successful, was even though I didn't really know what I was doing, all of those inherently had a very strong payoff at the end, which was such a blessing because I didn't even understand that at the time. So that's another thing. And then also speaking to that point, let's say you're going to Japan to try the fastest bullet train. I'll just think of that because that was a recent idea. I'm heavily inspired by Ryan Trahan. I feel like a lot of people are, obviously, but I think he does such a good job with every part of the video. And I learned this from him. Make sure you have like a B storyline. So even if it's unrelated to the video itself, in that video, I say like, and at the end, I'm also going to come home and surprise my wife with a gift from Japan. And even if it's a small fraction of all the viewers that watch that video, there's still going to be a fraction of them that want to see my wife's reaction when I give her the gift. And that's also just another reason to watch to the end. And it's a very underrated way to like build an actual audience of people who are interested in you and your life. And that's a really good. So it's good for building your brand and your audience, and it's good for retention. And then there's probably a lot of other things, but do you want to interject?
I did actually want to ask a follow-up. So you were talking about Ryan, and I mean, I talked to you about it before, but you are like the most Ryan-esque type of YouTuber. And that's not even like a bad thing, but all the way down to like the theology elements, right? Because he incorporates a lot of that too, the theology. So Bible verses, things like that. With that being said, like, was that intentional for you to like mimic his style, or it just so happens to be like you yourself is like Ryan?
Dude, it's insane. I would say it's a mix of both. One funny thing, I recently posted a video trying the 5 levels of water parks, and I posted this on my community page. But Ryan posted a video the same day going to hotels, and we were both wearing Patrick Star swim trunks. And I was getting comments like, why are you dude, stop copying Ryan's trunks, or some comments saying like, that's funny that you both had the same. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What are the odds of that? Because I already do get enough of like, stop copying his style. But for me, and this, like, to go back to my football background, if I see a punter who's really good and on his way to the NFL, or he's the best punter in the NFL, you're going to be sure that I'm going to look at that guy and say, oh, I love what he's doing with his drop, his steps, his swing. I'm going to try to take from that and implement it in what I'm doing and learn from that. And so that's my same thought process or philosophy with YouTube. It's like, it does take skill and knowledge to make a successful YouTube video, not just being good on camera, but you actually have to know what you're doing. And so for me, I'm thankful that Ryan is so good at his craft, and I was able to take a lot of like principles that he does and try to apply them to my videos. But at the same time, you do have to make sure that you're still being yourself and not trying to copy someone you look up to exactly, because that's not good either, and you're not gonna build a true audience that way. And I think part of it is like, you have to start out by doing that a little bit, right? Because if you're just trying to make it on, because again, I was trying to come from being a football player, but now I'm trying to make it as a YouTuber. You got to like try to emulate a little bit of what someone's doing, and you can eventually find more of yourself and your style on YouTube. But I think it's important to do starting out. It's like just looking at whatever aspect of life, whether it's finance or being a good teacher or a good chef. Like, it's useful to look at who's doing really good and try to take some things they do and put it into practice. But it's all about how you do it too, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because I can't remember who told me this, or if it's like just something like I figured out. But like when I was a YouTuber back in the day, when I made videos, I made them under the basis because it's like I was inspired by the people I was watching, and I wanted to emulate them to some degree. Yeah. And then like after you emulate them to a degree, you figure out like, okay, this is like my own style, but like this is like what I'm pulling from, over here, right? Like what I'm inspired by. And it's like basically building on the shoulders of giants that came before you.
Yes.
And eventually you have your own kind of style, and you get better and you get better. But yeah, it is really interesting that you said that, because I think it's something that a lot of people do, but they don't understand why they're doing it. Like, I meet guys all the time who's like, no, man, I want to do YouTube. I'm so inspired by so-and-so. And that you see their videos, and they're very much like coded in the sense that they're similar to who that inspires. And eventually they go on and do their own thing. Like a great example of this as well is like Eric, who was like inspired by Mr. Beast, right? The guy from LA. And like now he does his own thing, right? Like you're a great example where like inspired by Ryan, now like you're very much your own thing. You're Hangtime. So yeah, I think that's like a really, 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 really great point. I think a lot of people should probably take something away from that, where it's like, oh yeah, I should maybe lean a little bit more into my inspirations to develop my actually own unique style.
So if you're inspired by somebody, there's a reason that you maybe have an affinity for that person or like that person, and you probably do have some genuine overlaps too. Like as an example, I feel like I'm kind of an awkward person, admittedly, and like if you watch Ryan's videos, some of the funniest moments I think are some of like the awkward moments, like the awkward humor. But so that's always like that's just something to think about. Like even if you feel like some people might perceive it as you're trying to copy or emulate too much, if that's genuinely part of who you are, then you should leave it in. And then yeah, I echo everything you just said too.
You met Ryan, right? How did you first meet Ryan Trahan?
Definitely the Lord set that up because that was more confirmation that I should keep doing YouTube. I think it's my most viral video. You could check, but it is my most viral video. It has like 13 million views. I melted every candy into one. And at the time, I got in contact with Ryan through through an agency, and then we were able to eventually just get phone number contact because I had the idea. And this is a tip for you watching. If you want to like try to collab with a bigger creator, and this isn't necessarily anything groundbreaking, I think this has been said before a lot, but you have to have some value that you're like approaching them with. And so for me, I'm a pretty small channel relative to Ryan, especially back then. I'm like, well, even now I'm a minuscule channel compared to his, but I saw that he has Joyride and he loves Joyride. So I was like, I'm about to do this melting every candy into one. Maybe there's a chance if I make sure to like, because I was going to show Joyride anyway. I mean, it's a very popular candy. Maybe he would find that fun to like do the end bit with me, and I can highlight Joyride in the video. And thankfully, by the grace of God, Ryan's super nice, and he was down to do it. And that was like I feel like that was another huge moment and milestone for my channel. The fact that I was such a small channel and was able
How
to
big
land
at the time?
around 1 million subscribers, maybe less.
Okay.
And yeah, it was just super cool that he was able to do that. So basically, he was in the end of the video. He tried some of the Joyride with me, and then he tried the final amalgamation of all the candies melted together. And that was a huge collab, and I was grateful to make that connection. But yeah, so for you watching, like think about if you approach a creator that you want to collab with, what is even if it's like a little bit of value, what is something you can offer them? And then don't ask too much. Be like, this will take an hour or this will take 30 minutes if you want to do it. Even if it's sometimes a FaceTime. I had recently, on like the grocery store video, I had a FaceTime with Nick DiGiovanni. And he was like, it was at the end when I was cooking stuff. And that was just a little thing that elevated the video because Nick is such a big creator too. And it was just like, it was cool to have him in that. And then Ryan was in that one too because there was something else going on in Austin at the time. And it wasn't that huge of a time commitment for him to do, and he was down to be in it, and that also elevated the video. So, yeah, it's fun to collab with creators and always just try to think about how can I add a little bit of value to my asks, so I'm not just. It's kind of arrogant to assume that this person would sacrifice a good amount of time or effort just to help me with my video.
You said it right. You got to find a way to give some value to that bigger creator, and they'll more often than not say yes. And I'm curious now. So you're doing all kinds of entertainment style videos. I'm curious, what's your like ideation process here, and what's the, let's say, content strategy moving forward?
I feel like it's still evolving a lot with me. It's crazy when I look at like even this past year. I know a lot of creators are different, but I have an idea list of videos. So I do use one of 10, and then I also just scroll through YouTube. Like I go to channel pages, look at their most popular video, and try to like take inspiration from that and twist it some way. Because I do believe everything's been done under the sun. I think even in the Bible it talks about that in Ecclesiastes. Nothing's new under the sun. But a lot of it is how can you take something, and even if it's just tweaking a couple words, like for the title, it makes it feel a lot more fresh. And I think for like the water park, the reason I pulled the trigger on that one was because people have done water parks before, and I was gonna do like I was trying to think of a way to spin it, and I think no one has done. I tried 5 levels of water parks, so even just like that little nuance of an angle to it is what makes it feel more fresh. So anyone watching, if you feel like an idea has already been done a lot, literally just try to think of. Just brainstorm as much as you can. How can I make this a different angle or a different approach? But yeah, you'd be in terms of like my ideation. It's not super like scientific or not super nailed down to like a T. And what I will do, I will actually go back and delete like a lot of my video ideas. And I know people say that's dumb because you always want to keep them. You never know what can happen. But I truly believe it's the most like overpowered element of making a viral video, because there's a good quote. I think I forgot exactly who said it, but I'll say it right here. And my friends make fun of me because I love this quote. Great video, and maybe you've heard this before. Great video plus bad idea equals no views. Bad video plus great idea equals views. And then great video plus great idea equals viral. And basically what that quote is saying is like the idea is disproportionately important for a video's success. So that's why I go back and delete some of my ideas that I don't think are super strong. And I'll only pull the trigger if I really evaluated like a few things. Does this have a very high total addressable market? Does this have a way for me to like segment the video ideally? And does this have ideally like a big payoff at the end inherently? Because some ideas you have to kind of manufacture a payoff, but I think the most viral videos are where you don't even have to manufacture something. There's already something inherently about the idea where there's a pretty big payoff. And I think like the 5 levels in that scenario, the payoff was like people want to see the most luxury water park, so that's level 5. But ideally, it's like the payoff is until the very, very end, and that's where you can kind of manufacture like a B storyline to do that part. But besides that, what else do I do? I'm trying to develop like buckets on my channel. And for you watching, if you don't know what that means, a bucket is essentially just like a category of a video. So it'd be like the mixing videos. That was the bucket of mixing, and I try to ideate within those parameters, so that way I'm not just ideating from literally any possible idea in the world. And right now, I'd say my buckets are like building things, travel in general, which I want to make a more specific bucket on that one. And then videos with Cedric and maybe like food. So I'll sometimes sit and ideate only within the parameters of like a travel video, if that makes sense.
And you're basically getting millions of views per video with those ideas, right? What's one piece of advice you'd give a YouTuber wanting to grow today?
What kind of YouTuber? Where are they at in their YouTube career?
Would you say it's different? So for someone, let's say starting, and someone getting like let's say 100,000 subs.
I think there's definitely going to be overlap in the advice given, but if it's someone who's just starting, kind of similar to what I just said, but also I'll add some more context. I would say the most important thing is the top 3 things I would say if you're a new YouTuber. Think of an amazing idea before you start making a video, because the reality is you might spend 2 weeks working so hard on this video, but you already kind of played yourself from the beginning by not having a good idea, and it's unfortunate. So good idea, then a really good title and thumbnail, aka the packaging, and then I'll give you 4 things. Then intro, I think that's like, it's pretty similar to the title and thumbnail of how important it is, and then just at least one really compelling reason to watch into the end. And within those 4 things, there's obviously endless details of what makes a good video, et cetera, et cetera. But even if you just do those 4, you're already going to be ahead of like the vast majority of people uploading videos on YouTube. And that's like the reality is, to make a viral YouTube video, unlike making a viral Instagram reel or TikTok where you don't know what you're doing, YouTube is a lot different in that you can't really just accidentally make a viral video. It's very rare to do that because you have to do so many things right. But those are probably the top 4 most important.
I was wondering, before asking the last 2 questions, why Hangtime?
Yeah, I started the channel. It was actually called Hangtime the Punter. And in football, in American football, hangtime refers to how long the ball is in the air after you punt it. So I took off hangtime. I took off the punter because I feel like hangtime is just kind of just a word that's general enough that sounds cool, or I think sounds cool. Yeah, I feel like some people might interpret it as too like time to hang, like you're just hanging out with me. I like it, and I don't think, yeah, I'm not going to change it. But originally it was because of football, Hangtime the Punter.
So consider YouTube as the stock market and YouTubers are stocks. What YouTuber would you invest in and why?
If you're asking more of like who's like an underrated stock that has a chance of making a lot more in return, first one, I'll say Tonio Guajardo. Do you guys know who that is?
Yep, I have him down.
And then I'm going to shout out also my boy Josh Mayer. It's actually a golfing channel. So Josh Mayer Golf. But he's like the only content creator in the entire golf niche that is making videos that are like more targeting like more of a general higher total addressable market. And so relative to his subscribers, he's getting way more views than he should be for like the golf niche relative to his sub count. So I think ideally in like a few years, those guys will both be pulling in a lot more views.
The Josh Mayer one's like awesome. Like that's like just a great, I didn't even know this guy existed. I know Tonio though. That guy's great, but this is like awesome. Like this is like super super sick golf content because I love golf content.
Oh, let's go. Yeah. What about you? Who would you say?
Actually, Vex answered this question 8 months or 9 months ago, and that was you.
Dude, let's go. I didn't even know that. Did you say that in a podcast?
Yeah, it's out there.
Dang, I'll have to go back and watch. That's funny.
Yeah, we also like have like a community Discord server for strategists, and there's a YouTube stock section, which this whole question is about. Like that whole section is about this question. So it's like I've Tonio, I got Killdozer, I've got like basically a bunch of people who you're talking about. There's a lot of like really good creators out there. But yeah, I had you down as like maybe you were at not yet 1 million subs. You might have been at like 800,000. And I was like, yeah, this guy is easily gonna hit 10 million subs one day. Like,
let's
easily.
go, Lord willing. I appreciate that. But like one more thing, more recent epiphany is I'm doing more shorts. But I'm reluctant to even say this because I think shorts could be also negative for your channel if you're not also uploading quality long form videos. But I think that's one more recent thing I learned is like, because I was kind of scared of them, but I've recently been doing more and they've been doing well. And it's like, I think they're valuable to do. So, and I'm saying this because I'm assuming there's a lot of newer channels watching this video too. Do them, but make sure you're also uploading long form videos. So that way you're building an audience that would hopefully watch both. But for me recently, I've been doing more because I feel like it could potentially help my channel grow a decent amount faster. I don't mean to open up a whole entire another new topic. I just thought of that as you were talking about growing.
Shorts is a complicated topic because what we used to say a lot is it's a waste of time, basically. Yeah, I think I still feel that in the sense that at the beginning, when you're starting YouTube, if you go hard on shorts, you're not really going to create an audience unless you go into the millions of subscribers on shorts. However, when you're at your level, I think it definitely makes sense to create high quality shorts, but
Yeah.
there's a gap. And I'm curious, last question, what's your dream for the next 30 years? What's the big dream out of it all? The reason you're creating this channel?
Going back to my faith and kind of what you asked before, I love there's a verse, Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work heartily as if serving the Lord. So I feel like, and I don't do that perfectly, obviously. I'm still a sinner, so I still mess up, but that's the good news of the gospel, right? That even if you are a sinner, through belief in Jesus, you could be forgiven of all your sin and receive eternal life. So for me, my dream though, going back to that question, is just making sure I steward my channel well and do it as if serving the Lord. Even though I'm going to mess up, I'm going to inherently sometimes be prideful or do things for the wrong reasons. But if I feel like at the end of the day, for the next 10 to 30 years, if I really made content that was content that I was working my hardest on, I felt like was uplifting content, nothing where I'm taking advantage of people, but doing it truly just to try to make something that encourages people and is funny. And also I will like sometimes read a Bible verse or share the hope of Christ in my videos, just because, bro, we live in a crazy world and like, I know I'm not going to be alive forever. And so like at the end of the day, let's say I did become the biggest channel, which isn't going to happen, but let's say I did become the biggest channel in YouTube history, bro, one day I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be 67 years old or like 80 years old, and I'm going to die, and I can't take my channel with me. That's a crazy thing. Maybe some people will still be watching my videos, which by the way, it's always a weird thought. Like, am I going to be making videos when I'm 40? I don't know. But yeah, where I was going with this. Yeah. So basically my dream is that, I just serve the Lord well, because I know I believe once I die, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be into eternity. And the Bible teaches either heaven or hell. And I believe when I arrive in heaven, it's like, was I a good steward of what I had? And that'll be like the biggest question. And then more practically, just to be, I feel like if you're watching this and you're a creator who's like also a husband or dad, obviously it's not easy. And I feel like I love YouTube so much, so I have to remember like there's other aspects of my life too where I got to share a good amount of attention and like balance it, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it to like all your identity in YouTube. And that's like a big tip too for if you're watching this, don't put your entire identity in YouTube, because it won't truly fulfill you. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah. And I guess maybe like in a more practical level too, like Lord willing, I'd love to have a product one day. But I feel like it'd be premature to launch that. And like, yeah, I'm excited. I have an idea. I don't want to say what the product is though, but I do have a product idea, and that would be a huge thing if I could do that, but I don't want to prematurely start that. But that's another like long-term goal as well.
Well, that's a good way to close this podcast. We'll do the next one when you hit 10 mil.
Thank you guys for having me.